Hey guys, can you hear me okay? Just give me a heads up or thumbs up or something. You guys are in listen only mode, so that's probably going to be hard for you to answer. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if I can figure out where the chat is. I'm just trying to figure out how to automatically unmute everybody here. Need to check. Hey Paul, can you hear me? I just unmuted you.
Yeah, can hear you.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you. You're making too much noise, so I'm going to mute you again. All right, so we'll just give it a few minutes here to have some people join. Wish I knew how to unmute everybody, like instead of selecting one by one. If you haven't been able to tell already, this is kind of like the first time that I'm using this software here. Is there? All right, just a few more minutes. All right, on the top, hopefully you guys can see this. On the top, well, on mine, it's the top left of my window. There's like some tabs. It says attendees, QA, and well, I don't know what it says on your side, but there should be a QA section. If somebody sees that QA section, do me a favor and just go ahead and type something in there. Just post a question or an answer, just so I know that that's you. All right, sweet, awesome. I know I'm the man. What's up, Brandon? I'm gonna have to figure out. I can unmute you guys, but what we'll do is somebody throw an emoji up here too. I'm gonna see if I can, if it shows up like on your name or something like that. I see a thumbs up, but I don't know where it came from. All right. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started? It's 4:35 here Eastern time. I'm sure people will continue to trickle in as we progress. Um, and now I just have to figure out how to share my screen. This is going on well so far. Almost there, guys. I promise. All right. Give me a quick heads up or something, thumbs up. If you could see my screen over here, you should see Trading View. Yes, cool. All right. So thanks everybody for joining. And I realize that we're 6 minutes late. I apologize. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the question and answer, little column over here. So while you guys are, while I'm going through this, feel free to throw out any questions that you have, and I'll get to them. If I don't get to them, during the presentation, I'm just going to try to open up everybody's mic, or at least, somehow figure out how to open up mic selectively and let you guys ask questions and what have you. But I appreciate you guys showing up. I appreciate you guys supporting this project. It's been kind of a whirlwind. I put this together just a few weeks ago. What feels like a few weeks ago. I've been working on it for probably about 12 to 16 weeks. But before I get into that, let me just give you just a real quick background about myself. I've been around the STRAT community now for I guess about 2.5, 3 years, and for the better part of that 2.5, 3 years, I struggled quite a bit with the STRAT. Conceptually, I understood things. I understood how when you take the individual components of the STRAT, it all kind of makes sense, or at least it made sense to me. Full-time frame continuity. You have the candle combinations, you have the actual signals, you have broadening formations. All of that stuff just made sense. I understood it, but yet I was still missing something. And during my journey of trying to figure out what I was missing throughout that time frame, I spent a lot of time developing stuff. Like first, I was originally introduced to the market using Thinkorswim, and so I taught myself how to use ThinkScript, coded a bunch of stuff, kept on, and you guys have probably seen it if you use if you use Thinkorswim, you're probably using some of the indicators that I created throughout the years. But I found myself continuing to develop things, continuing to add stuff to my chart to the point where I couldn't even see anything on my chart anymore. I was more overcome by all of the colors and the lines and the shapes and this and that, rather than really paying attention to what the charts were telling me. And somebody that my paths happened to cross, who's also on this call, Paul, really helped me in the beginning, show me some of the things that I was missing. But ultimately, what I wanted to create for myself was something that would allow me to focus on the price action and what it is that I'm trying to get accomplished from my trading perspective, and not lose sight of the price action, not lose sight as far as exactly what the charts are telling me. And so I created this program that helped me understand the STRAT, not as individual components, but the strat on multiple time frames, and that's the part where I struggled with. I had a challenge putting things together when I'm looking at multiple time frames, and I'm not talking about just multiple time frames like time frame continuity, but understanding when I have a reversal. I sent a tweet out the other day, like you can have a 2-2 reversal on the 60, and you can trigger in on that, but only if it's at least a 3-1 on the day and a 2-2 on the week, and it's a 3-1 on the month, and so you can and green or red or what have you. So you can put these things together in multiple time frames, and ultimately that's what I wanted to put together in a piece of software. And I know that kind of sounds confusing, but that's the beauty of this. You don't have to really worry about those nuances because it's doing it all for us in the background, the magic of code. So ultimately, this is something that I'm using in conjunction with understanding what's taking place on the higher time frames. I typically, I tend to like to day trade. I tend to look for reversals on the 60. However, higher time frames are extremely important in the whole mix of things. So let me first start off with just giving you a quick overview. And I know that there's quite a number of people on here that are already using the technology, which is great. I've spoken with quite a number of you, and it's fascinating to hear how you guys are using the technology creative ways that I haven't even thought of. So that's really awesome. So what we're looking at here is, we're looking at the daily chart, and I have these candle overlays on here that help me visualize what's taking place on the higher time frames. It's not part of Simple Strat. It's part of, it's out there within TradingView. You can get it. It's called a candle overlay, or also I modified this version. But if you want, just send me a note or something. I'll get it to you if it's something that you want. But we're looking at the day, and the larger blocks are the month. You can tell right over here in the upper right-hand corner, it's the month. And then the smaller blocks are the week. And so what we're looking here is multiple time frames at the same time. And we're able to analyze the information. We're able to ultimately configure the way that we want our reversals to be set up and take action based off of those higher time frames. All right. And so what the hell do I mean with all that? So let me pop this open. Keep in mind that we're on a daily, and I'm going to first talk through maybe some of the higher time frame swing trade type of scenarios. And then what we'll do is for any of the day traders, I'll drop down into the intraday time frames, and we can look at those as far as smaller time frames. So just as a quick overview to explain a little bit about what you're seeing right here, you see the green line. That means that you're in a trade. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So we entered a trade over here. It's telling us the number of shares that it was able to purchase, and I'll go through how it calculates that. And then this is basically the trailing stop loss. Not basically, it actually is the trailing stop loss. And it's showing you how it's progressing through the trade, and the stop loss triggered right over here, and it sold for $1,072. And so this is what I want to explain a little bit more about in detail, but I wanted to give you an idea visually what you're looking at here. So to get to the settings screen, I double click on the table down here on the lower right. You can also go to the gear icon over here. By the way, I'm assuming that everybody, for the most part, knows how to add strategies or studies to or indicators to TradingView. So if you don't, let me know. I'll show you, but it's really easy. So the first section, there's two ways to go about utilizing Simple Strat. You can use this, out of the box as an alert mechanism. So you can either pay for all of these rooms that you subscribe to and have these fancy bots give you, these canned alerts as far as, as soon as it meets this criteria and blah, it sends you this alert and you're paying however much for that. Or you can use this and you can set it up for any which way you want and customize it specifically, for the actual alerts that you want on the time frames and in the conditions. So the first way of using this is really utilizing it from an alert perspective. But you can take it one step further. Whereas if I have supported, I've written a bunch of code on the back end to integrate TradingView, this study, with some brokers. So if you want, you can also have SimpleStrat trade for you and place the trades on. And I'll go through this section up here real quick. But it's important to note before I go into this section, you'll see, let's see here, you have these, like in TradingView, you have like all of these different, trading partners that are supported with TradingView. I use Thinkorswim. I use TD Ameritrade, and I'll get to that in a second. And it's not on here. The point that I'm trying to make is, because your broker isn't on here doesn't mean that I can't support it, and I don't support it. I don't even pay attention to these on here. This isn't even something, I don't even use the integration. I built a manual bridge that basically does what this does here, but it allows us to bypass, this stuff over here. We don't have to be confined to, any of the brokers that are on here. If they have a REST API, chances are I can figure out ways to integrate it. All right, so let me get back to the screen over here. So pretty easily, broker, not too complex. We're going to select whatever broker that we're using. Interactive brokers is also part of this. I have not added it on here. However, it is supported. In fact, I don't know if Christian is on the bridge here, but I know that he's using it, and we're working together to get some test trades pushed out. Trade your paper account, E-Trade, Oanda, paper, and there's several others that I have in the works as well. You just pretty much select the broker that you want. You put your whatever email address you've subscribed with SimpleStrat with. That's the key indicator that pulls your data as far as your API configurations. And then you set the rest of these parameters however way you want. Initial capital, anything that you put in this area, SimpleStrat's going to use to calculate the shares that you can purchase. And I will go through how it calculates it. But this is important because I have $10,000 as far as my initial capital. And I'm going to risk 1% on every trade. And I'm trading shares, right? So I can risk $100 on any trade. And the $40,000 here is because I have a margin account. I don't want to overload the boat. And, because it calculates the max amount that I can afford to purchase when it's figuring out my initial stop loss and my trigger, I don't want it to go over $40,000. Just random, round numbers here. So if you want to disable that, you can just put it to zero. It's no problem. All right, so that's pretty much the upper part over here. Trade settings, going through this, it's very important to know that this is the time frame. This is what higher time frame do you want your strat signal to occur on. This is the time frame that it's actually looking for the reversal to occur on. So the chart that we're on right now, if we were to set this up for this chart, it's going to look for the reversal to take place on the 1 day. Now, we haven't specified what the reversal is yet, but it's saying we're telling SimpleStrat, hey, you're going to end up looking for the reversal on the 1 day. Now, if we drop down to the 1 hour, we'll change this to the 1 hour, and we can drop down to the 1 hour chart, and we can do the same thing. And I'll go through a little bit more about that a little bit later on, especially when we go down to the lower time frames for intraday. So the important thing to remember is we're setting what time frame we want the reversal on. You can't go up in time frame. So I can't be on the day and set I can't go down. So I'm on the day. I can't necessarily set the hourly on the day because the calculations don't work, because mathematically the code TradingView can't count down as far as the chart time frame, so it gets a little complicated. But anyway, the end result though is it's whatever time frame you're on, just make sure that it's above it. So we're on the day, trade direction, we're going to be long either shares or we're going to be buying calls. The trade type, stock or option. So a lot of people were asking about option support. And I think it's important to note here that yes, this definitely does support options. It's going to be at the money strikes. It's going to be, or one out of the money, I should say. By default, you can select this Friday, assuming it's not a holiday. You can select next Friday, assuming it's not a holiday, or you can specify a certain date as far as the expiration of the contracts. So it has to be in this format over here. So year, month, day. So if we were going to look for expiration of, let's say this Friday, it would be April, May, June 2nd. I think that would be. So we would put in here June 2nd, 2023. We wouldn't need to specify it actually because we could just say this Friday. No date will populate over here when you select it. It would be nice, but I have not done that. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty much the extent of the functionality as far as trading options. You're not going to get any sort of in-depth detail. TradingView doesn't even support options. So the fact that, this is in here is pretty foreign to the TradingView audience anyway. But what this is doing is exactly, what I just described. It's going to go out, it's going to grab at the money, whatever it is at that specific time. On the back end, what it's actually doing, it's comparing what the price of the ticker is, looking at the closest match for the strike price, one out of the money, and the actual, the expiration date as well, and it's executing on that. It's market order. I do have some plans for adding the ability for limit orders, especially if you're doing Forex, because you can get killed when you're trading Forex if you're doing market orders. But that's pretty much the extent of the option expiration, options. The option contract. This is where we're going to specify, obviously, the number of contracts. So I have not figured out any sort of calculations like I have with shares. It's basically up to you, to the user, how many contracts you want to be able to purchase. There's just too much going on in the background as far as premiums. All the different Greeks trying to calculate everything. It's just too much to actually handle. When it comes to ultimately, well, I'm going to skip the take more aggressive setups. Actually, I'm going to skip that for now. But if we're day trading, I typically like to flatten all my positions right near the end of the day. So I'll check this box. If you're not day trading, which we are not here, since we're on the hourly, you don't have to check that box. So moving on to the targets. This was something that, quite a number of people had requested as far as the ability to set targets. And I had to think about this one because I wanted the ability to set targets and for you to actually look back and analyze the back testing based off the targets that you selected. Now, if we manually write in a price as far as a target, it's going to be voided as soon as, that candle closes because it's no longer the target. The target's technically gone. It's either hit or, it didn't hit. So there are a couple different variations of targets that I put in here. I have a new version that I'm working on that's enhancing the actual targets itself. And I'll show you some of that a little bit later on if you'd like. But, basically, if we're on the daily, the targets are basically T1, T2, target 1, target 2, target 3, target 4. What this is doing is, if we have a strat setup, let's see if it does it for us on here. It may not because it hit some of the targets already. So if I select target, if I put T1 on here, we should see a yellow line. This was what it calculated as the first target. And it should have been, it's the previous high. So what it's ultimately needing to do is it starts looking for the targets right over here, which is where the reversal took place. And it then works its way up for historical hourly, or excuse me, historical daily bars. So the next previous daily bar from where we are right now is over here, T2, T3, should be up here. Now, this is, I think that this is more or less a work in progress as far as the targets themselves. I'm working through how to better uh, work through those things. But as far as the targets go, they're there. Um, I don't like the way that they're set up, quite frankly. So I'm like I said, I'm working through that. The risk reward auto calculation, if you say, well, I don't want to take any trade unless I have at least like a two to, at least a 1 to 2 risk reward. You can set it so that it automatically finds the 1 to 2 risk reward and sets it on the chart. This is pretty good. I like the way that this is set up because it guarantees that, well, it doesn't guarantee anything, but the target is going to be set for at least a 1 to 2 risk reward. You can also set targets based off of the amount that you're in profit. So maybe if I'm saying, all right, well, if I'm in the profit, if the profit that I've obtained in this trade is higher than $150, just get me out, or if it's higher than $1,000, get me out. Same with percent. So if you've reached a certain percent in in the trade as far as profit, you can immediately sell. Or one thing I haven't mentioned yet is you can sell partials. So this scale out section over here allows us to specify the amount of shares that we want to actually cut when we hit the target. So we can sell 100%, we can sell 75%, whatever the balance is left over, it's going to get stopped out on the actual trailing stop over here. So whatever you've selected for your trailing stop, which is what we'll be going through in just a minute, that is how the balance to get stopped out. So you can leave runners basically. Okay, so we were talking a little bit earlier on up here about the time frame we had selected, which was 1 day. Now we select what kind of reversals that we're looking for on that daily. So let's say I'm looking for just 2-1 long reversals. So when I select 2-1, let's zoom in here. So it is, here's the 2-1. It's hard to see. This is an inside bar right over here. This is the 2 up. So it triggered in over here, and the initial stop was down here, and it carried up. There's you can do whatever sort of combinations you want. You can do 2 2s. You can do, so these are also stackable. So if you want, this was a 2 2 reversal over here. So it's finding the actual reversals, but it's also marrying together the rest of the configurations, part of which we haven't gone through yet, to the overall strategy itself. So like I was saying, you can stack this. You could say, oh, I want 2 1s and 2 2s, or maybe I just want to look at 3 1s, right? And down here, you can select the continuity. Maybe I want the day is green, the week is green, the month is green, or maybe I want the month to be in force. So this month's high is greater than last month's high. Not necessarily a reversal, but it could be, or it could be 2 2 continuation. So you can specify all this stuff however which way you want it. And as you make these adjustments, you see in the background these things changing, but you also see the metrics over here, which is the real important part, in my opinion. As you make these changes, you're basically changing your strategy. You're basically saying, okay, this is how I want to trade. These are the setups. This is the continuity. This is how I want everything configured. What is it that historically this ticker has done on this time frame for these setups? and you're able to get a good idea. And this is a good time for me to kind of review over here. As we make changes, it's telling you what the profit was for the trade, for the entire trade. And you know what? To make this a little bit more meaningful, I'm right now. You can filter the back testing time frames. Okay, so right now it's pretty much set wide open. So I'm gonna ratchet this down, and I want to say, well, just show me 2020. Oops, 2021. So it's like basically 2 years worth of data. So this is showing me 2 years worth of data for this type of setup or these types of setups, and it's telling me, well, it took 24 trades on the daily, and the return on investment 26. I had no break evens. My win percent was a lousy 38%. My risk reward is 1 to 3.8, which, I mean, the risk reward's not bad. It's really good, actually. But you can get much higher percentages, win rate percentages, which is definitely what I shoot for. And I'm going to give you basically these metrics as far as back testing. And so what I end up doing is, I continue to tweak things and look to see, what sort of other combinations, do well with this type of with this type of ticker. And now I'm getting into a little bit more of an interesting range. Now, granted, I still am on the daily, but now I have 53% win probability, 1 to 5.2 risk reward, right? So it's starting to get a little bit more interesting as far as the numbers. And again, I'm only risking $100 on, each trade. So we're not going to knock it out of the park on every trade. Although if every trade could be like this one, then that would be great. So that's pretty much showing you, the configurations. Now, the next version that I have coming out, I have changed all this, and I have given a whole lot more flexibility with the setups. Instead of it just being, over here, instead of just being able to select, enforce, I've given you the ability to select what sort of combinations are you looking for on those higher time frames. So if you love to trade, weekly shooters. So last week was a weekly shooter to the downside. And if you want to set up lower time frame entries based off of this week's trigger for the shooter, maybe on the hourly or something like that, you can do that. Or if you like to trade, 2 1s, 2 and 2s on the monthly, and look for, continuing to look for lower time frame trades, you can do that. And again, that's on the next release, which should be out pretty soon, actually. So everything I just showed you is the same, just opposite for the short side. And that's pretty much the candle combinations and continuity and enforce and whatnot. Trail type. So the last TTO is personally the one I like. And it's doing just what it sounds like. So I'm going to go out of here. What it's doing is it's finding in the actual price action, since you entered the trade, the last TTO, and it keeps pulling up the stop to the last TTO of the prior candle. In the beginning, it sets the initial trigger, it sets the initial stop at the low of the entry candle. And if this entry candle happens to be a 3, and if you want to enter in on a 3, then what it's going to do, it's going to find the next lowest low, which would be over here. And that's where it's going to place the initial stop until it gets to the next candle, and it fully paints the next candle. Then it'll ratchet right back up to, keeps a real tight stop until price action is over your entry. The low of the candle of your current price action is over the entry. It actually ratchets things up to the the low of the prior candle, continues to go up. but then it normalizes itself and starts to just grab the previous TTO. So that's how the whole TTO thing works. And then a lot of this other stuff is pretty, self-explanatory. You can calculate the PSAR, and you have the ability to set, the PSAR, configurations over here. If you don't want to use the PSAR, you can use ATR, and you can use, the periods over here. Or if you like to use the traditional STRAT approach and just trail the prior low or the high, depending if you're going long or short, you can do that as well. So that's what this trade would look like if we were to do that. So it's, chopped up a bit, in and out, in and out. But again, that kind of works well on the lower time frames, especially at the open. If you're gonna trade, gappers or something like that. So winding down here to the well, everybody, my mom's grass is cut. So thank you to the long guy. I apologize. So ratchet profit. So this one I did for those real fast moving trades that end up rocketing, and then it quickly reverses. So ratchet profits basically means it's going to look at what your risk per trade is, and every time you double your risk per trade, it ratchets it itself up that amount. So if you're up, if you're $200 in profit, it's going to pull it up to $100 in profit. So it's not going to go below that. If it goes below that, you're guaranteed to make, relatively guaranteed to make, that $100. If it goes to 300, it's going to ratchet up to 200. And so that's just a way to, on those, quick moving bars, if you want to. I don't use this very often, but it is, there is a place for it. Again, there is a place for it if you're going to scalp like in lower time frames at the open, where price action is moving real quick on, on those lower time frames. It's useful, but it comes down to personal preference. So some of the other settings that you can use are obviously if you care about what's going on with the SPY, if you're trading, again, this is probably more so for intraday purposes. But if you're on lower time frames and you don't want to go take an entry on Intel unless the SPY is not inside on the day and the continuity on the day and the hour matches Intel. So you can, limit, and it's all ways to reduce risk and increase your probability, which is all that this is actually going to do, right? So nothing's a guarantee. The strat's based off of probabilities and increasing your probabilities, which is obviously why we have those universal truths from Rob, helping us make sure that we're on the right side of that probability. Yeah, and just kind of rounding things out here, the filters, if you want to ignore certain trades not to happen during certain times, so 9:30 to 9:45, if you don't want to take any trades between those times, well, it's not going to work now because I'm not on the intraday. But again, this is more intraday settings. You can specify what times not to take trades. I don't want to take any trades the last hour of the day. I don't want to take any trades the first 15 minutes of the day, things like that. And then I also showed you how to, ring fence the back testing and figure out, right now, like I said, we've cut things down to two years worth of data, just to kind of keep things a little, normalized. And that helps when you start to flip between timeframes as well, so that you're not looking at like 3 years of data on the hourly, and then you go down to like the 5 minute, and you're only looking at like a year of data. It starts to skew things quite a bit. That's pretty much what I wanted to show you from the higher time frames. I'll drop down to the lower time frame real quick, and then I want to open it up for some questions to see if there's anything. I know that there was a bunch of people that said that they had questions that they wanted to throw out. So let me just change some of these things. Now, as I'm changing this, So now I'm down to the 15-minute time frame, right? Now watch as I make the changes in the settings, just watch this box over here. Um, First off, right now, even though we're on the 15-minute, this is actually a good point. I should have made this before. Even though we're on the 15-minute chart right here, this 15-minute chart is going to be trading the reversals on the daily. And so what does that mean? It's not going to trigger in. Let me change this so that you can actually see the day. So let's say hourly, and then let's say daily. Okay, so now we're looking at the 15-minute. So the individual bars are 15 minutes. The smaller boxes are the hours, and the larger boxes are the days. And so what this is saying here is, hey, don't trade any reversals unless it's a reversal on the day. So even though we're on the 15, this isn't triggering it. This is this gap at the open for the the hour. So if we find one that you can see, probably not terribly important, but yeah, well, whatever. You'll see that it'll trigger in at the actual break of the day. And what it'll also do is you specify in the settings how you want, by default, this version triggers in on a strat reversal on whatever time frame you're looking at. So we're on the 15-minute. It will trigger in if it triggers a reversal on the 15-minute, which triggers a reversal in on the daily, because we have it set for the day, right? And if we went down to the 5-minute, it would do the same thing. It's going to trigger in on a reversal on the 5-minute. That will trigger a reversal on the day. So we have nested, which this is all part of the challenges that I had being able to figure out the nesting of different strat combinations on different time frames. So it's maintaining that we're trading a reversal on that lower time into a reversal on the higher time frame. Okay, so what I was doing was I was changing some of these things here. So I'm gonna leave all that the same. I'm going to change this down to hours. So we're going to trade 60-minute reversals, stay long. This doesn't affect anything. This thing, if you select more aggressive setups, it's typically more trades with higher risk. What that means is on the lower time frame, this is the entry time frame. We're on the 15-minute chart. Whatever chart that we're on is the actual entry. So we can enter, this could be the 15-minute as well. Therefore, it's going to look for reversals on the 15, and it's going to enter on the 15, and it's you're one-dimensional at that point as far as your strat configuration. You're looking at one time frame and entering on one time frame. No problem with that. But since we're looking at the 15 and we're actually looking for the reversal on the hour, it's going to trigger in on that strat reversal on the 15 into the hour. But you can also select this, which is basically more aggressive setup. So all that means is instead of a strat reversal, it will also trigger you in if it's a 2-2 continuation. All right. So it is the reversal plus the 2-2 configuration. Just more aggressive, more trades. You see over here, 105 trades. The higher profit, you're increasing your risk with hopefully an increased reward, but it's just personal preference. Flatten time, I don't like to take any trades until up until excuse me, I like to flatten everything quarter to 4 East Coast. Risk reward, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to trail my stops and just stop out based off of the actual trail, the TTO. Yeah, and I just leave the rest of this stuff as is, and you get an idea of what things look like on the lower time frames. And this this isn't too stellar over here, but you know, you continue to play with this stuff, and it really starts to make a difference. Trail type, high, low. That's why. Okay. So last TTO, watch down here. 1.9. Yeah, it's still not great. Let me take this off. 51%, 2.3. So, in a nutshell, that's basically what we're looking at as far as simple strat. I know I threw a ton out at you, and I know that, you know, a lot of this, you know, hopefully you've seen some of the videos that I've been able to post, and, you know, hopefully this stuff, you know, makes some sense to you. But I'd love to hear from you. And, you know, if you have questions, let's figure out how to actually, if you want, just throw, you know, give me a note in the chat here, and I'll open your mic up. And next time we do this, I'll make sure that I know how to open everybody's mic up. Tim, I have a question. Brandon, are you kidding me? Hang on, buddy. Let me find you here. Allow to talk. All right, man. I think you're on. Brandon, you there? Well, Brandon's figuring that out. Let me check. Aaron, would you mind going over the difference between being stopped out on the TTO compared to the previous candle low? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Brandon, I'm going to leave your mic open, so if you figure out how to get it, disable talk. Nope. Yeah, so you're live. I don't know if there's maybe some sort of issue with the driver or something like that. All right, so the question from Aaron. So would you mind going over the difference between being stopped out on the TTO compared to the previous candle low? So when we look at the TTO, it's basically the it's a lowest low over the past X number of bars. So it's profit taking where the reversal, another STRAT reversal took place and went back, you know, in force to the upside. So in this example, let me find one here. Of course, we're not going to find one. Where did we have that? That was up in the daily. Let me see. There we go. So this right here is an example of a TTO. So it's up, and then we went down, and then we went back up. So this represents the low point in the price action. This represents, you know, I guess it would be like a break. It's a break of structure. This would be the break of structure going back up, I think. I'm not too, you know, brushed up on my ICP, you know, wording. But so what it's going to do is it's going to come up to the you know, the TTO, you know, the actual low of the TTO. This one hasn't, because it hasn't reached over the entry. So, but as you can see, here's the TTO, here's the TTO. And then it keeps ratcheting itself up. Now, if it were just the low, the previous low, it's going to go here, then here, and then it would stop out right here because it would have broken the previous low. And so this is where your trade would have ended. Yeah. So that's where it would have ended right there. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see, which one's the next one? Richard. Does this work on the free version of TradingView? Do you have to pay for an upgrade TradingView account? No, it's on the free version, so you don't have to. No, you can just download the free version. and you're rocking and rolling. Or don't even download it; just use the browser version. Oh, you're good. How does it determine the number of chips? I forgot to go over that. Thank you. Who was it? Jill. Good, Jill. So that's a great question. First off, let me get back to the TTO. So what it does when it figures the shares, okay? So how did we get 261 shares right here? So if you remember, my risk, I had put in there, I have a $10,000 account. I'm going to risk 1%. So that equates to $100. So what this does is it knows automatically where it's going to put its first stop. So it knows it's going to put its first stop over here. So what it ends up doing is it knows its trigger is here. It knows its first stop is here. So it knows it's got 51 cents per share that it can stand to lose. So if we take $100 and we divide it by 51 cents. Hey, Brandon, is that you? Well, that doesn't work out. Oh, you know why? 100. Let's see here. Yeah, so it's actually taking the difference between the high and the low, and it's basically calculating how many shares you can afford to purchase with losing this amount. I'm sorry, this is where the initial stop was, down here, because this was a 3. That's why the math wasn't working out. Since this bar was a 3, it moves the initial stop to the next lowest low below it. So it would be here. So the initial stop was calculated based on this entry to this initial stop, which is 86 cents. And so we take $100 divided by 86. And that still doesn't work. What am I doing? Well, my math is flawed somewhere. But it's calculating it based off of the original trigger and the initial stop that it's calculating. I'm not sure why it's calculating it differently for the 3. But the math typically works out. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Maybe it's fixed in a newer version that I actually had developing. What is the term number shift? I don't know where it's actually here. When trading options is to take profit or stop loss based on option price or the underlying price. Yeah, it's based on the underlying. Yeah, I can't figure out, unfortunately, just because premiums move so quickly, I can't base it on the stop for the actual option price itself. So it's based off of price action for the shares. All right. Any other questions out there? Drop a note in the chat if you have another question. Okay. Daniel. Really good for this. Well, a little different from what I do and what I'm trying to do. But I think you have a broad address. Good man. Daniel, I always respect you. You got a lot of great insight. Thank you for the kind words, man. I appreciate it. All right. So some stuff. If you guys want to ask me more questions, that's fine. Just to give you an idea, as far as what some of the newer I'm not going to go through the details that I just went through, but you'll see straight off the bat that this is the newer version. And you'll notice a lot of this stuff is the same, but you'll notice over here, it starts to get, I grapple a lot with, I don't want to make it overly complex because then it completely avoids the name of, of the product, which is Simple Strat. But I also want to make sure that we have flexibility and you guys are able to, because everybody trades this stuff so differently. So now I've increased the flexibility in what sort of setups that you can trade on these nested time frames as you work your way down the stack. Right. So there's a lot more to it visually, but a lot of this stuff is very similar as far as the guts of it. But it's still a work in progress. So you can still do the same stuff, by the way, with this version that you can with the older version. It's not going to change. You just, instead of, you can have green only and enforce, just like you can have on the current version you guys are working on. So that's that. All right. If there's no more questions, I think that we kept it to an hour. So I think that we're in pretty good shape. If you do have questions and you think of something later on, feel free to shoot me an email. I think you guys know how to get in touch with me, or feel free to send me a DM. But other than that, I really want to thank you guys for showing up, and I appreciate the support. And can users sell premium? What do you mean by that? Or only buy options? Oh, can you sell shares? Or can you sell options? No. I mean, I can configure it, but boy, that would be, yeah. If you want to do that as a one-off, yeah, we could talk through that. But I don't know if I want to put that in the product because that could get super, super nasty if somebody accidentally sells calls. But yeah, Daniel, if you want to shoot me an email, that's no problem. We can talk through that. So when using the trade qualified accounts, the margin account feature needs to be disabled. Trade qualified accounts. When you say the trade qualified accounts, not 100% sure what you mean by that, but I'll just use it because it's up here. But it's the same, on both versions. This is the newer version. I mean, you can set this to 0. And it basically disables the margin, so it's never going to go above, $10,000 worth of, shares that you purchase. And if you really want to, ratchet this down and say, you know what, I don't want to, I have a $10,000 account. I don't have margin in the account. I don't want to put more than $1,000 in any single trade. I only want to risk $100 still, but don't buy more shares than than I can afford over $1,000. So that's basically what this this section will do. And again, this is just for shares; doesn't have anything to do with options. Hopefully, that answered that. Can we consider integration for futures? I have the ability to buy, sell one ES lot, or if I want the function, I can trade the amount of futures based on the percent of notional value of a particular product relative to my account. So yes, I have considered futures. Futures is interesting because this stuff over here, it gets really interesting as far as how you figure this stuff out, especially if you're using margin for futures or the size of the contracts, as far as the actual contracts that you're buying. So the short answer is yes, but we probably need to get together and talk through that because we need to, I probably would need to do some tweaking in the code for better support for futures. As it stands right now, you can use this for alerts. As far as auto trading, we'd have to tweak it. I think you're doing it right. IRAs. Christian, you mean IRAs? Oh, I know what you mean. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, same thing applies to what I was just saying. As far as the, as far as um, limiting the amount of shares, whether it's cash or whether it's margin, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's just capping the amount of money that you're willing to commit to a single purchase. A single trade, right? So same example that I said. Maybe you have $10,000, but you don't want to commit more than $1,000 worth of shares. $10,000 to actually purchase. Yeah, IRA, no margin. Yeah, I agree, Christian. So found the multiple time period charts and trading view indicator, but how do you get the box outline and dotted? Yeah, I messed around with this code here. So if you want this, the box, if you want this code for the, it gives you this up here too, and you can automatically change, these boxes. I'm no longer showing you simple strat, but as you change time frames, if you look up here, it changes the time frames that best suit the actual chart that you're on. So on the daily, so it changes it up to, oh no, that's the 1 minute. I'm sorry. When you change it to the daily, it automatically changes it to higher time frames for you. But yeah, send me a DM and I'll get this code to you. That's no problem. Or just send me an email or whatever. I already have your trading view. Oh no, I don't think if you're a trading view, if you're a simple strat customer, I already have your trading view information. So I'll just add this to your account if you send me a note. Good deal. Any other questions? All right. Well, I'm always around. You know where to find me if you need me. Again, I thank you guys, and that's it. Have a great night. Thanks.